Hey, everybody, welcome to C.R.E.A.M podcast number 10. You're about to hear some great information, exciting, fun news about money, finance, and just how we're enjoying life. Make sure to catch C.R.E.A.M, and thank you for once again for watching and listening to C.R.E.A.M number 10 of the C.R.E.A.M podcast.
All right, Mr. Jason Matthews on the C.R.E.A.M podcast. How are you, brother?
Doing good. How you doing, Norm?
I'm doing great, but I know I'm not doing as well as you because you just had a new baby boy, huh?
Yes, sir. New baby boy, 7 pounds. His name is Adonis Isaiah Joel Matthews. Just had him a little bit over 10 days now, so I'm super excited about that. Long nights, more, but it's everything good. My wife Savannah is doing a great job taking care of him while I ignore him screaming and pretending that I'm asleep. So,
man,
shout out
it's
to
like
wife
that,
Savannah.
huh?
It's like that. Shout out to Savannah for that. I really do appreciate that.
A big shout out to Savannah for doing all the heavy work around there, huh? She's the brains and the muscle of the household.
Exactly, the brains and the muscles. So everything's going real well. So super excited about the new addition. So that's our third boy. So 5 altogether.
Oh my God, that's wonderful, man. And Adonis, what a great name. There's a lot of power in that name, huh?
That's what everybody says. A lot of power in it. And you know what's funny is we really just got the name from my oldest son's favorite movie, and I guess our whole family favorite movie, which is Creed, with Adonis, which is Apollo Creed's son. So
yeah, it's
shout out to the movie Creed.
Actually a good movie. Yeah.
I love that movie, man, especially the end when he said, "Why you fighting?" Because he said, "I'm fighting to show that I was supposed to be here for something or to be alive." To show that was no, he said, "I'm fighting to show that wasn't a mistake."
Oh, yep.
And that part was like he comes back and fight with the Rocky music. It's great,
man. Yeah. I might need to, when we post this on the podcast, I might need to cue up the Rocky music and to start going in like that,
Yes, sir.
I don't have those editing skills, man, but no, super congrats to you and to Savannah and of course Adonis. He's probably got about 4 or 5 years until he's wearing a C.R.E.A.M podcast t-shirt and listening, huh?
Yes, sir.
All right, Jason, and turning to a little bit more of a somber note, we'd be remiss if we didn't cover the Russia-Ukraine conflict. I guess you could call it a conflict or a straight up invasion, but this past week or two, we've had in the news everything about Russia coming into Ukraine and killing civilians and just terrible stuff there. And so wanted to get your thoughts not only on that, but also I'll point out that you called this early on, even last year in your forecast for 2022. You said there'll be way more global conflicts and they'll be increasing in sort of prevalence and number, but also intensity. And that's going to affect the global economy. So what are your thoughts on Russia and Ukraine?
Yeah, I think the whole situation is crazy because we haven't heard about an invasion, especially in Europe, since World War II. Economically wise, get ready for higher energy prices and uranium prices. People don't realize that Ukraine is a huge influence in the world and the biggest producer of uranium and other natural resources. And then with Russia and Ukraine, they provide a lot of the energy that's supposed to be for the rest of Europe. And so this is unprecedented territory. So definitely praying for all the people in Ukraine during this time. And I'll tell you this, Ukraine has a hell of a leader. Because when the United States said, "Hey, we can take you to safety," he's like, "No, just give me some more bullets. I'm on the front line." And that's the type of leader you want. And when it goes down to it, who's ready to be on the front line and fight for their country to the death. You don't hear about that anymore, but that's just crazy that he did that.
Yeah, and he was a comedian. Like he was basically a Jon Stewart, Trevor Noah type political comedian, as you know, even a few years ago. So he's not a military he wasn't a general, he wasn't a career politician. But someone put it best. I saw a meme, maybe you saw it, but it said, this is an example of true patriotism where people stay to defend their capital, not like in the US recently where people were attacking our own capital, right? So this is true patriotism in Ukraine.
Very much so. Very true patriotism. I think as America, one thing we forgot about is how much people sacrifice in past wars,
Yeah.
especially like World War II, where the whole country sacrificed for the greater good of the war. And I think at these days, we forget about the sacrifices, and we got so much individualized right now, and only about ourselves instead of what's the greater good of the whole society.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you on that. And I have a sort of broader perspective because I live overseas. But people, you made a great point too with the energy crisis. Well, why does that affect us? Well, it's uranium, like you said, and nuclear fusion or fission. I think fusion is what is it fission or fusion? Two different
Fusion, I
kinds of
believe.
yeah, two different kinds of power, but one of them makes up a good like 20, 30, 40% of electricity in Europe, and a smaller part but still very significant in the US. But then you have oil pipelines, you have trade, you have distribution, you have partnerships and agreements and the economic impact. So it's definitely going to drive up some prices. I just saw too that they were just barring Russia from using Swift codes, which was pretty interesting. This whole economic war is hopefully this is just a cyber and an economic war more than it is increasingly people dying and fighting, hand to hand, or actually fighting conventional war.
Right.
But what do you think about the implications of this whole economic war? What do you 6 months, 1 year, or is it basically just no one really knows what the heck's going to happen?
I think nobody knows what the heck is going to go on, but get ready for $6 a gallon gas because I know so get ready. All right, I guess California already paid the highest gas prices in the country, so get ready for $6 a gas prices. And I know that they just got finished with the pipeline too. That was supposed to be for Russia to Europe, and that was actually going to present 80% of all the energy for Europe, and now that has ended that agreement. But who knows? Russia just got this, they got this handshake they recently did with China. So don't be surprised if China does the same thing now to Taiwan. So,
oh boy, yeah. Well, we'll
very
wait and see,
interesting times.
One thing that I'm encouraged, it definitely shows that even though Ukraine is fighting alone and we can't, put boots on the ground there, and they're not a NATO country, we can't rush to their defense because it'll instantly escalate everything. But the consciousness of the world is with them, and people are posting on social media, and even Russian people, whether it's athletes or in the streets, are protesting this. So everyone knows this is a garbage war, and I think Putin is increasingly desperate, or just taking huge risks and gambles that aren't really calculated and aren't really strategic. I don't think it's going to end well for them, for Russia, but it's going to cause a whole lot of global havoc in the meantime. All right, now let's talk about the stock market. When we think about investment, retirement, where to put our money and where to see it grow, of course, the stock market comes into play. And Wall Street has seen some unprecedented salad days the last few years. But now that may change. So, Jason, why don't you tell us about the total returns for the S&P 500 over the last 3 years?
Yeah, so last 3 years, the S&P been going on a tear. So in 2019, the S&P grew 31.49%. In the midst of COVID, it still went up 18.4% for the year. And then last year, it went up 28.71%, which is very interesting since now that we're in correction territory with the S&P 500 in the stock market right now.
Wow, that's incredible. 31%, 18% increase, even with all the chaos and the changes and business shutdowns and everything in 2020, and then right back to 28% in 2021. So people have, I know I got spoiled just checking my stocks every day. Oh, I got X amount of dollars more today. That's great. And now it's a different reality. So tell us a little about that correction and what it may look like this year.
Yeah, what we want to see this year, what we're seeing already, is the correction, because the Federal Reserve, the people who have the power to print money, is worried about this inflation. And because of that inflation, they're going to raise interest rates. They're saying it. And before they have even raised interest rates, the market's already been raising interest rates on 10-year treasuries and other yields.
Yeah.
which now we're
they're
seeing
building in that future increase, which they know, the Fed March 15th, 16th, I think it is.
Yep.
Is already increasing a quarter, maybe a half point, and they're just probably going to increase it at least a quarter point every time they meet this year, probably.
Yeah, you hear some Federal Reserve thing going to raise it half a point every time, which means now your mortgage is going to be higher interest rates on your mortgages, and then right now the S&P and everybody's worried about it, and you're seeing that we are now in correction territory where before when you was investing over these last 3 years with the returns, you just threw money at the wall and you made money, but now it's going to take a lot more skill in this market.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So it really separates the people who are just speculating or, timing the market or trying to get, as it goes from to good to better, to the people who are true investors. So you're not supposed to put in a bunch of money to the stock market or investments and see it go up daily, weekly, monthly, and over the year. I mean, so it's supposed to take time is what I'm saying. And so 2022 for the average person, I know you have a lot of investment advice and people could contact you for more personal advice, but should people just keep investing even if stocks are not going up? Should they, take a pause and wait until they come up? I know this is super on a layperson's level, but that's what a lot of people are wondering.
I always tell people it depends on your age. So if you're getting close towards retirement, you want to be more cautious compared to somebody like me, who I'm 38 and I got another, 32 years to retire, probably retire at 70. And so I can take on that more risk. But if you're closer towards retirement, I tell people, let's find out, take the amount of money that you have, might want to put it aside into some safe assets that is going to generate you guaranteed income when you decide to retire. And then use the rest of it that's after that guaranteed basis, and use the rest of it to be in the market and equity market, because that amount you can afford to take on more risk than the money that you need guaranteed every single month for you in retirement. So
as usual, it's not about what stock or what fund or how much you invest. It's about where you are, what your goals are, your risk tolerance, and your age. How many years you have to save, or it's really about you more than it is the markets, huh?
Right. And people have to get back to fundamentals. I think over the last couple of years, you hear people try to get these quick credit returns, quick flips, like, oh, we're trying to get 10, 20% in 4 or 5 months, investing in this NFT or this crypto or and all these trends, trying to make quick ration, quick buck for money. And when you're investing, you're actually investing for a long play, usually either 7 to 10 years on average is a long-term play. And that's how you should consider investing, not how can I put some money in crypto and flip it overnight? We just got to have more realistic expectations on what the market is historically and understand that there's no such thing as fast, quick money.
Yeah. And this is when investors, like Warren Buffett and stuff say, this is when you really make your money is you're buying low. So when things are corrected, when they're not going up, or if they've corrected and gone down, and for some people investing now, you're not going to see the return now, but then, as things start coming back again and the cycle keeps going as it always does, that's when you're going to be so glad that you invested and it'll pay off exponentially.
Exactly. And everything's about being consistent. I think a lot of people don't understand, to build wealth, you got to be consistent, which means let's make sure we save every single, let's put money away every single month or every week or whatever, but just being consistent. Not enough times people are being consistent. So
100%. Don't try to sit there timing stuff. Don't, try to, check every single day if it's gone up or down. Oh my God, I need to make decisions based on that. Just put away as much as you can consistently, and even take it out of your hands, right? You talk about that, put it on some sort of auto invest out of your paycheck or bank account, and then look up in 10 years and, or 15 years, and boom, that's when it could do its work for you.
Yeah, definitely.
But one thing I want to call you on, though, you said, I don't know if you were talking about the average person or you, but you talked about retiring at 70, and man, you're going to be retired in like 3.5 years. You're going to be on the golf course and stuff, hosting tournaments and doing media. You're going to be a media star, traveling around the country. I could see it.
Man, I'm still working, man.
Just remember the little people like me. Maybe I could wash your car or something like that when you blow up like that.
Definitely. You can definitely wash my car. No problem, man.
All right. Thanks, Jason. All right, Jason, now we have an interesting quote that I saw the other day. This was actually by Mark Hertling, former commanding general of the U.S. Army. I believe he was commanding general in Europe. But he was speaking as an analyst on one of the news programs about Putin and the invasion of Ukraine. And he was talking about risk takers versus gamblers and how Putin is more of a gambler, which is not a good thing. But I think this applies a lot to investment too. So why don't you read this quote and give us your thoughts, if you will?
Yeah, there are risk takers and there are gamblers. You can mitigate risk, but you can't overcome a losing gamble. And that's really a really good quote. I think oftentimes gamblers are investing or just doing things without thinking it through or the process and figuring and taking considering the risk that's involved. They're just putting all the chips into it. So I think this is a really good tip, maybe for the war with Putin, but also how a lot of people just look at their lives on how do they invest compared to gambling.
That's right. So it's all about having a smart strategy and being calculated and understand your tolerance for losing and not just black or red, just bet it all and hope for the best. I mean, that's not a real strategy, huh?
Right. It's not a real strategy at all.
All right, Jason, now we're going to talk about something. You posted a video recently with your partner there at Matthews Financial Insurance Solutions, Thandiwe, and it was about your big why in your life, why you guys work so hard, why you're so dedicated, why you care so much about clients. So why don't you share a little bit about that video with us?
Yeah, the reason I made that video is I always just want to remember and let people know why we're even in business and what I do. I think oftentimes people work with advisors and they don't know why the advisor is doing it. And especially in the financial service industry, sometimes it gets a bad rap, especially from the bigger firms, about being greedy, all about just taking people money and these crazy fees. But reality is the why that I do it is I want to really impact my community and help people prepare for what I see. I think oftentimes a lot of us are walking in the dark when it comes to just life and financially wise. And what we want to do is just help people just, do better financially wise, be more educated and just do better and help people. Because I think more and more, like reason why, even why I wrote the book, The Age of Self-Reliance, is we're not getting the true data of everything. People are today is a lot more challenging for the individual, more of your own personal responsibility to take care of yourself and your family than it was back 30, 40 years ago. And the world and the game has changed. And but the news and everybody won't tell you that. And we're talking about it, like, for instance, we're talking about inflation these days, but nobody's really talking about how's that affecting everybody in your pocketbook and the quality of life right now. And so our why is we want people to be okay and help people not to struggle so much in life.
I love it. That's it. And I know going back to when you first got in the business and helping your mom and, you got in when everyone was rushing out, you got in right, before the recession and the housing crash and everything. And it was just probably the worst time to get in financial services, except for you, because you got in to actually help people and guide people and give them good information so they wouldn't make the same mistakes twice. So it was the perfect time for you. So, man, not even joking, not even saying this because we're on the podcast. I got to take my hat off to you. You do the right stuff for the right reasons and you really care. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. Yeah, I think you just got to find people who care. And I really just care about making sure people are doing better. And even though it started in the worst time, I think it was the best time because you understood the effects of chaos and how everything was going to go. So it definitely was a great time for it. Everybody, today on the C.R.E.A.M podcast, we have our special guest, Patrick PJ Johnson. Patrick PJ Johnson has been in the insurance and financial world now for 39 years, approaching his 40th anniversary. He's holds his designation in the CLU and CLTC designations. And then he just came out with his latest article about long-term care that was published in a financial services magazine in California. PJ, thank you for getting on the C.R.E.A.M podcast today. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. It's been great, and Happy New Year to you. Glad we're here.
Definitely happy New Year to you as well. So long-term care is a great topic, and the reason I want to be on this podcast, I know the great Tom Hegna says that a retirement plan is not complete unless it has a long-term care plan inside of it. So right now, PJ, what do you see going on as far as the type of long-term care plans available for consumers today?
Well, in California, it's very exciting. There's 3 different types of plans that one can look at, Jason. And I think the key is for them to get started and look at something. They don't have to buy the whole thing. I think that if people look at it, they usually say, "Oh, it's too expensive." Well, too expensive considering what? I mean, home health care, $28 to $30 an hour. Assisted living, is 4,500 average here in Sacramento. So maybe you don't buy everything, but you get something. But the 3 types of products that we have in California, one is your traditional, which a lot of people know and understand. They've been around a long time. It's basically a cash flow sale for the most part. You pay typically on a monthly basis. You have a daily benefit. Let's say it's $150 a day. You have inflation options based on the carrier, 3 or 5%. You could do a 20-year or lifetime. You can lock in your coverage for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in California now we have lifetime. That just happened. So you can have lifetime coverage. You have a couple elimination periods. You have one for home health care, which is, we have a rider that offers 0-day elimination for home health care. And I recommend that and run that on every proposal. So they're not dipping into their pocket, because people want to stay at home for as long as they can. And then usually most people pick a 90-day elimination for assisted living. And there's things out there like couples discounts. There's you can buy a single policy, Jason, or a joint policy. And so we're running those. And a lot of times when financial advisors call me, sometimes we're running all 3, because the clients maybe want to look at a cash sale, or they want to look at an asset sale. So the second one's called hybrid. They've been around since, I don't know, maybe 20 years now. They started off as a single pay only. You get some sort of death benefit leverage and a return of premium. And that's kind of the 3 moving parts of that. Today, with interest rates where they are and people living longer, the death benefit isn't as high. We've also realized that a lot of people don't surrender these at all once they have long-term care. So we're not running into where people really want their money back, but there's an option there to do that. Like I said, it provides a little bit of death benefit. And if they did want a single pay, they could 5 or 10 pay. So those are out there. There's 3 or 4 carriers in California, and it's for that client that really kind of wants everything. And then the last type in California is more of a life insurance sale, where they might be a little younger, 30 to 60, 30 to 55, where there's no life insurance inside the estate. And they buy a little bit of life insurance, maybe $250,000 or something. And you put a long-term care rider on it, like 4%. So you get 4% of your death benefit up front for 2 or 3 years. And so, that's something you can pay. It's a universal life policy, so you can pay as you go, and it's got long-term care coverage in it. And of course, it's got the tax-free death benefit. So we see a lot of younger folks do that. I worked with my daughter-in-law who was 34. She had no life insurance, just got married, had a kid. They bought a house. She needed some coverage. She's a pharmacist, and you buy $500,000 or something on that, put on the rider. It's building cash value. Our recommendation is start looking at this real early. You can buy policies up to age 79. But it gets more difficult and more expensive, Jason.
Hmm. I definitely understand that. I know one thing my family regrets. My wife's grandfather has Alzheimer's and dementia, and now last year we had to put him in a facility. And uh, my wife grandmother regrets when they proposed to him to get long-term care. He said, "No, you take care of me." And now, even last year, it's sad to say, he asks, "If I forget your name, will you still take care of me?" Which is a very sad thing. And she got long-term care because she was a state employee. And at the time, the state of California had a long-term care plan. She took advantage of it. But in actuality, they should have both of, because her quality of life and the sacrifices she made for not having proper long-term care plan for him has been huge. So that's why I think, even if we don't think we need it today, eventually most of us, they say 70% of the time, are going to need some type of long-term care.
Really affecting a lot of families. And then, today with the nuclear family, they're all over the country. So which child's going to quit their job and move from New York back to California, take care of dad? I mean, it's tough. And like I said, you should get something. May not be all of it, but it's better than nothing. And again, it's based on either cash flow or an asset where you could single pay it today, which I see a lot of people looking to do that.
Yeah, definitely. So tell me about, some people you hear in the news that it's so hard to get long-term care right now. Tell me about a client getting underwritten today and what they have to do to qualify for long-term care.
Sure, sure. Well, all the carriers we represent, they want to do prudent underwriting, and they don't want to be looking at applications that are going to get declined. So we do a lot of pre-screening, Jason.
Mhm.
So agents like yourself send me information on the client, either via a form you would have filled out, or you just tell me they're on this medication for this reason. And we're trying to do pre-screening. We send that to our carriers within usually 24 hours. We get an answer back, thumbs up or thumbs down, or hey, I got a couple extra questions, Jason. Ask the client this information. And we try to get them to the point where we know how to run the proposal. And then, of course, all the literature out there that the carriers have, they're trying to make you as best field underwriter as you can. So, things that you would be looking at obviously is height and weight. Certain medications, they all publicize the medications that are at decline. If the client's got Alzheimer's or dementia now, that's not going to work. Diabetes, oxygen, Parkinson's, those types of things are automatic declines. But other than that, it's not as hard as people think, because we're doing these quick quotes up front and trying to get to the bottom of it. Some of the biggest medical concerns for underwriters today are diabetes, depression, bipolar, sleep apnea, cognitive dementia, memory loss, family history, obesity, height, weight. And then you have what's called comorbidity conditions, where you have more than one thing. And you see that on the life side as well. So we're trying to get to the bottom of all of that. There's no medical exam. Most carriers are going to call the client for 45 minutes, have a conversation about the medications they may or may not be on, and health-related questions. No blood, no urine. If you're 65 and up in California, they're going to send out a registered nurse at their cost. They want to see the client. They want to walk into the house. They want to make sure they're not on a walker. They're going to do a cognitive exam. So 65 and up, they're going to do that. And then most of the carriers have a couple of underwriting classifications: preferred, select, class 1 or class 2. That's not much different than applying for life insurance. And so from that standpoint, the carriers have been at this for so long now, and they realize where interest rates are, and they realize people are not surrendering these, that they're doing as prudent underwriting as they can, and that goes back to starting early. And that's kind of where we are on the underwriting issue today.
Yeah, people definitely are not giving them up. I refer back to my wife grandmother. She's 89, and with her policy, she still has it, and she probably been retired now for 30 plus years. Because we never know the day that she might need some type of long-term care or assistance, especially as you get older. Her health declines, so we make sure we don't.
Thanks for listening to part 1 of Jason's interview with Patrick P.J. Johnson, and look for part 2 in the next podcast episode.
It's funny, man. I went to this wine tasting event yesterday, and it's late, and this girl comes up to me. I don't even know who she was, like one of the biggest wine festivals in the country. And one of the girls who came up to her, like, I listen to your podcast.
What?
Cream,
Are you serious?
Deals, yeah, serious. We're like,
and she said that? She said the cream?
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, oh, that's crazy.
Cash rules everything